Hello, this is Dana Arcuri, author, speaker, survivor, and advocate from danaarcuri.com. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you are having a beautiful day. And today's topic is titled, Does the Toxic Family Self-Destruct when the scapegoat leaves? And the reason I am going to be discussing this specific subject today is because I had someone ask me that question. And so recently someone posed a question, hey, when the scapegoat leaves the toxic family, what happens to this dysfunctional family? Does the narcissist turn against the flying monkeys? And so she had some questions for me. I did a lot of pondering, a lot of self-reflection. And then I do what I always do best. I start researching it. And lo and behold, there is not information on the internet in regards to this topic today. So after scouring the internet, I am trying so hard, people, to dig through one website after another website, looking for YouTube videos, looking for quotes, any kind of facts and statistics. There just is not enough information about what happens to the toxic, dysfunctional family, the narcissist and the flying monkeys, after the scapegoat goes no contact. And so instead of giving statistics, I have to do what I consider as speculation, my intuition. I have to have my own hypothesis on what I believe takes place in a very dysfunctional family unit when the scapegoat does finally walk away from this ongoing manipulation and abuse. And so today, please understand, you could either take this with a grain of salt, or you may relate to it. You may have your own personal insights, opinions, and thoughts. Feel free to share in the comments to keep this discussion going. And so I just want to be real upfront with everyone that this is a real hard topic because we have to think about it in many different ways. Number one, oftentimes when a scapegoat or the black sheep of the family end the cycle of abuse, they are no longer part of the dysfunctional family unit. They left. They're gone for good. And in most cases, they don't reunite. In 99% of the real life situations, there is not a happy ending with reconciliation. So we can understand that anyone who did end this scapegoating and they went no contact and they're not in any relationship with the narcissist and or toxic relatives, we can understand that they may never know 100% of what has taken place after they left, nor do they care to find out. And because it's very toxic, it's unhealthy. And so the average person who does walk away from abusive, hostile relationships, especially anything that may have been child abuse, narcissistic abuse, sexual assault, bullying from the flying monkeys, we have to understand that once you are free from this very psychologically abusive relationship, you do not go back. You do not go follow them on social media. You don't visit them. You don't see them. You don't talk to them. You don't talk to any of the relatives. So in most cases, us, black sheep of the family and the scapegoats, we don't want to know what's happening. Okay, so we can only have an assumption. Some of us have some gut instincts. A lot of times we follow our intuition. We could have also predictions based on what we do know about the family unit. Okay, so let's really keep that wide open, make it real clear that this is our opinions. This could be based on also when we take a deep dive into analyzing a dysfunctional toxic unit, we could find facts and statistics online on very credible websites about toxic people. So there are statistics and there are examples and there is evidence that a family unit who is very unhealthy, who is bullying the scapegoat, abusing, gaslighting, smearing, retaliating, stalking, and there's a lot of psychological abuse that goes on intergenerationally. So this could be something that it's not really just one family. It was the family before you were even born. It could be your ancestors. It could be your relatives. It could be your grandparents and their grandparents and all the different dynamics from the different generations that were before you who did have at least one narcissist, several flying monkeys, and there was always someone who was the black sheep of the family or the scapegoat. Now, this is something that is very ingrained within the generations. So in my class for certified trauma recovery coaching, we just completed the chapter on intergenerational trauma. And based on those facts and statistics, we can really appreciate and understand that once someone is a narcissist or an abusive parent or an abusive sibling, they typically don't change. So it's very common for the narcissist and anyone who's very toxic, abusive, whether it's physical violence, domestic violence, sexual assaults, incest, and on the trauma goes, these people don't change, okay? They are not reformed. You can't change them. You can't fix them even if you wanted to. So we can really appreciate these raw facts. So let's move on in this discussion, and we're going to talk about first the definition of self-destruct because we want to first understand it and then move on into, yes, the family unit does self-destruct after the scapegoat leaves. Okay, so according to dictionary.com, quote unquote, to self-destruct means to destroy itself or oneself, to cause itself to reach a state of collapse, dysfunction, or confusion. So simply stated, when the scapegoat or the black sheep of the family leaves the toxic family unit, the unhealthy family unit will fall apart. They fall to pieces. Now, this might not be automatically. It might not even be in the first year. But when we look at the big picture, and we're talking, there could be 3 years that the scapegoat is free from the toxic family. Then it could be 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and beyond. Now we're getting a clearer picture of what really happens to that dysfunctional family when the scapegoat walks away. So we can understand that this dysfunctional family was never healthy to begin with. The root of the generational abuse was never the scapegoat. So, okay, let's take a little pause, because the family unit, especially the narcissists and the flying monkeys, they will say, the scapegoat's the problem. They're the problem. It's all them. It's, there's all of us. Oh, there's all of us in the family. There might be 50, 60, 100 people in the family who are actually ganging up on this one scapegoat. And so they use the mobbing mentality by saying, well, it's all of us against you, so it must be you. Now, this, of course, is the mindset of family mobbing that does take place, and it's very common. But, no, it's not true that the fault is the scapegoat. You understand that before the scapegoat was even born, that generation and the generation before it, and you keep going back in your ancestry and the family tree, we can understand that it was already toxic, abusive, just such a poisonous family. So it has really nothing to do with the scapegoat at all. It's about them. You have to look at each individual. How healthy are they? No, the narcissist is not stable. No, the flying monkeys are not psychologically stable people. They don't have a sound mind. There is an illness that bleeds into the family from one generation to another generation until someone finally walks away. So what happens when the scapegoat leaves the toxic family unit? After the scapegoat is no contact, the flying monkeys fear that someone else will have to become the scapegoat. They know that the narcissist is going to be starving and craving for narcissistic supply. The flying monkeys are terrified that it could become them. They're the next person to be targeted for scapegoating. Of course, the flying monkeys will do whatever they can to keep it from happening to them, and it's a form of self-preservation. The flying monkeys prefer the family hierarchy to remain the same. They enjoyed preying on the scapegoat. They loved that all the blame was shifted and dumped onto the black sheep of the family. And they enjoy this because the hot spot is where the scapegoat is. The scapegoat was targeted and preyed on. There was probably family grooming that took place for years in this early childhood of the scapegoat, where they were ganged up on, manipulated, and preyed on because they were very vulnerable. Now, in some cases, the family scapegoat could be the youngest child, but this is not just always the case. It could be the first child, the second child, the third child. There are so many different scenarios, including, there are some people who are the only child in the family who end up becoming the scapegoat for the narcissist. So there's a lot of different scenarios that could take place in these unhealthy, dysfunctional families. Next, we can understand that what will happen is the flying monkeys will turn against one another in attempt to not become the next family scapegoat. So they'll tattletale, they'll tell on each other, they'll start triangulating relationships with one another because they want to be on the good side of the narc parent. They don't want to be preyed upon. They don't want to be the person who ends up becoming the second scapegoat. So they will do whatever they need to do so it's not them. So we can understand this is a hypothesis. Again, we can really understand when we dive deep into generational trauma, we can understand the statistics on these families and how unhealthy they are, and that it does not have anything to do with the scapegoat. The problem is not the black sheep of the family or the scapegoat. The problem itself is intergenerational trauma that goes around and around and around and around, decade after decade, year after year, century after century, until someone finally walks away. So the flying monkeys are considered enablers. They enable the narcissist to manipulate, gaslight, and abuse the scapegoat. The flying monkeys are codependent to the narcissist. They have a very, very destructive, unhealthy relationship. So when you lose your family of origin, technically you might at first think it's a loss. Okay, you could go through a grieving process. You could feel angry. You could feel confused. You could feel betrayed. You could feel hurt and traumatized. But when you get to the other side of healing, understand that you realize that it's not a loss to lose your family when they are malicious, vicious, vengeful people who aim to hurt you and hurt you bad. It is not a loss to lose abusive people. So you finally are free from this toxic, dynamic, dysfunctional family. You may feel relief. So once you go no contact, you might feel relief. That could be an emotion that's very common. It's very natural. It's very normal. You could finally breathe. Oh my goodness, you finally get your life back. And then what happens is you feel safer. you could finally actually be your true self, the person who you were destined to be. So siblings, they have no empathy. They have no compassion, no understanding. The flying monkeys don't respect you. They don't love you. They don't respect your boundaries. And they never really cared. You know, when we start thinking about it, it's like mind-blowing. Like, wow, at one time I was actually good friends. I felt like my siblings were my best friends, and now they betrayed me. Now they turned their backs on me. They literally shoved me under the bus, and they despise me now, and they hate me. You know, it's really hard to wrap our brains around this truth. You know, how could someone 40 years of your life, or 20 years, 30 years, however many years of your life, act like they love you and they support you and they care about you? And then all of a sudden, when you stand up to the narcissist, these people, they trample all over you and your boundaries. They accuse you of being the problem. They say that you're the crazy one. Oh, you're the abusive one. Or you're the one who's a rotten person. And they used to be your friends. And so it is really mind-blowing that you could have many, many years of this close-knit family, and there's an elephant in the room. Okay, the elephant in the room is the toxic, abusive dynamics of the whole family, that there is a narcissist and there are roles that are being played. So there is a golden child. Oh, they could do no wrong. Oh, they could do no wrong. They're so perfect. And boy, oh boy, does that narcissist want to rub that in your face. And then there is the forgotten child, and they're just brushed aside. They're lost. They're lonely. They're people pleasers, and they will never stand up for themselves. And there could be one narcissistic sibling in the family, and boy, oh boy, whew, they're control freaks. They have power trips. They have an itinerary for the whole family, and you better damn well listen to what they have to say, or you're going to be hurt, and they're going to punish you for not obeying their rules. You know, and these are the things that go on in the dysfunctional family. So what will happen is the toxic family will implode. So what happens to the toxic family unit when the scapegoat leaves? The family implodes, everything blows up. Now, of course, the timeline could be different for every toxic family. For some families, the first year, everything could be focused on the scapegoat. They could be gaslighting, manipulating, stalking, chasing, spying, hounding, mobbing, criticizing, ostracizing the family scapegoat. But sooner or later, they're going to no longer have a story, because the scapegoat's gone. They don't know what's going on in the scapegoat's life. They don't have contact. So there is no contact. So they don't have the liberty to know the ins and the outs of what is happening in the scapegoat's life and their profession and their family and their health and their success, etc. Okay. And so the family is outraged that the scapegoat left. You know, the siblings are extremely terrified that they're going to become the next scapegoat. And then the family just implodes. It blows up. And yes, this entire scenario with the very toxic dynamics will continue, but in a different manner now, because now the scapegoat's gone. They get bored with this topic. And remember now, the narcissistic person, who could be the parent and or the grandparents and or one or more siblings, they really crave narcissistic supply, and they are damn well going to get it one way or the other, even if that means that one of the flying monkeys are going to become scapegoat number 2. And so let's move on in this chat about what happens when the scapegoat leaves the toxic family. So really, to the root of this dynamic of a dysfunctional family, they are rotten to the core. Okay, they are rotten, they are poisonous, they are unhealthy, and it will not change. So even though the scapegoat left, they're gone, they're out of the picture. That won't ever change the root of the toxic family. Next, we can understand that When scapegoat number one is out of the picture, this intergenerational abuse cycle has strife among each member that is still in the family unit. So you can have all these cousins and aunts and uncles and grandparents and siblings and in-laws and grandchildren and nieces and nephews, okay? And what happens is that the family does what the family does so well. They find another person to ritually abuse. They seek to gang up on number two. It's the second scapegoat of the family who's now preyed upon because the narc is so starving for narc supply. They're going to gang up on and recruit flying monkeys to keep this abuse cycle going. So what they do is the malignant narcissist will handpick and prey on the weakest link within the family unit. So here, I'll give a little picture here. So here's the family. This one, the thumb, is the malignant narcissist. These people here, four, they're the flying monkeys. Here's the scapegoat, who's scapegoat number one. When they're together in the family, here, maybe like this, they're together in the family, there's 6 of them, and they're in the family, and it's a very toxic, dysfunctional family. And so scapegoat one leaves, they're no contact. Okay, they're out of the picture now. Well, now we have a narcissist who's starving for narc supply. We have 4 flying monkeys. So who's the weakest link? Little guy over here. We're going to call Mr. Pinky scapegoat number 2. So they are someone who is a people pleaser. They are someone who is considered compliant, obedient. They follow the orders of the family, even if they're outrageous, ridiculous, offensive, abusive, criminal. And even if it's something that they believe is wrong, they're going to bow down to the narcissist and the other flying monkeys because they don't have the guts to walk away like this guy, scapegoat number 1, walked away. Well, the second scapegoat, they don't have the guts. They don't have the courage. They are people pleasers. They are followers. So most likely they are going to be compliant to the narcissist. They will keep the family secrets, and they are very, very obedient. So the second scapegoat, and this is my hypothesis, and this is what I believe, keep it with an open mind that it could be many different scenarios. So I'm just giving a few examples of what I believe takes place after the narcissist walks away. So scapegoat number 2 could be the forgotten child who has always been a people pleaser, who bows down to the leader of the pack, who's the narcissist. They may also be a grandchild. So if it's not any of these 4 people, which I was saying, I think it's this guy, a little pinky guy, okay, then it could be one of their children. So this is just my hypothesis, okay, where perhaps if it's not little Mr. Pinky Guy, it's one of these 4 flying monkeys who has a child, and it could be now a grown adult. And so this grown adult could be one of the rebellious kids in the family. It would be the narcissist grandchild. And what happens is this person could be more rebellious. They could be the one who is a whistleblower. They could be a free thinker. They could maybe even have some empathy and compassion. Maybe they have some common traits like scapegoat number 1. And they've watched all this crap come down, the family implode. They've been standing back, watching everything. And before they can even take another breath, they realize that they're being ganged up on and that they could become the second scapegoat. Now, anything is possible. Anything is possible. So, have no doubt, the toxic family unit will fall to pieces when the scapegoat number 1 walks away. They go no contact. They're gone. Adios. Goodbye forever. And what happens is, once scapegoat number 1 is out of the picture, they're no longer part of the family unit, and the structure has fallen apart. So it's like a big tornado. whirled its way through. And it literally is like the tsunami, just literally has devastated and totally dismantled the entire family unit. Once that first scapegoat is gone, what will happen is there's going to be a lot of bickering within the narcissist and the flying monkeys and other relatives who are still intact. There is discord. There will be drama, and a whole lot more drama. And we must know there's going to be deception on top of that, with a heaping of lies, and more lies from the abusive family unit. And slowly, now this could take years, people, through the years, maybe after 2 years, 3 years, 10 years, and beyond, this dysfunctional family will slowly, gradually deteriorate. So they just are deteriorating and falling to pieces. Once scapegoat number 1 is full no contact, the narcissist will definitely freak out and fly into a rage. They are so ticked off that this scapegoat stood up to them and said, "No, I will not continue being in an abusive relationship with this family." And the flying monkeys are also, they're having a little pity party for the narcissist. "Oh, I'm so sorry that scapegoat number 1 left you. Oh, they're so bad. It's all them. They're the problem. Oh, they're so mean." And they'll say to the narcissist, "Oh, I don't know why that happened. You're such a great parent." A lot of really interesting things can take place after scapegoat number 1 walks away. But we can understand that everybody is fired up and terrified of what will take place now. And of course, the flying monkeys, they know that they may be the next one in line. They're going to take the fall. They're going to take the fire, and they're going to be hit hard. So someone is going to become the next scapegoat. You could bank on it, because this generational trauma that goes on and on is going to keep going on and on. And so, due to the narcissist's big fat ego that is bruised when the scapegoat number 1 leaves, he or she will turn on one of the flying monkeys and or one of their adult kids. So there's a lot that is going to take place. It is not a pretty picture, people. It is not a pretty picture. There will be a huge family fight. Arguments, disagreements, name calling, people flying into a rage. And then the flying monkeys are going to be just close by the narcissist. And so they're going to be someone who's easy to target, especially any of them that are people pleasers, any of them who are followers who don't have the courage to stand up and confront the narcissist. Next, we can understand that the narcissist, the adult children, the grandchildren, and the relatives of this entire family will have these non-stop conflicts going on after the scapegoat number 1 is no longer in the family. So what happens is there is new narcissistic supply. There's a new scapegoat who we call scapegoat number 2. There will be triangulation of relationships, especially scapegoat number 2. This will continue on and on. We can understand that this repetitive cycle of gaslighting, manipulation, stalking, shaming, blaming is going to be dumped onto scapegoat number 2, because scapegoat number 1 is gone. They don't have a story on that person anymore. Even if that person is someone who might be in the limelight, who might be a public image, there's still a lot that this toxic family unit will not know about him or her, whoever this scapegoat number 1 could be. So they're not going to be privy to personal, confidential information. There might be a lot of things they're just never going to know. And that is why, of course, scapegoat number 2 is the target. We can understand that when we sum this up on, what happens to the toxic family when the scapegoat leaves, we can understand that the toxic family goes to hell in a handbasket. They go to hell in a handbasket. And that means that they rapidly deteriorate. They are headed for disaster. They are ruining all of the relationships with one another. It's extremely abusive, dysfunctional, unhealthy, stressful, nonstop drama. They're headed to destroy their entire bloodline. It's actually really sad when you think about it. So devastating and tragic that this goes on in families. And unfortunately, we can understand that in the case of the toxic family, there is no happy ending for them, except for scapegoat number one, who walked away for good, who went no contact. They left the family unit. And so there is a happy ending for scapegoat number one. They had the strength. They had the guts and the grit to walk away from the abusive family. This courageous scapegoat will start a new life. He or she, they will seek peace of mind. They will set healthier boundaries. They will seek healing, health, and hope and happiness. They will become successful, joyful, and passionate, empathic people who are going to be the voice to the voiceless and give hope to the hopeless. They have survived the toxic unit, and scapegoat number one wins. So if you are the scapegoat, you won. You won. You're free. This is something to celebrate, people. Woo, woo. We can understand that anyone who is finally free and empowered and liberated and living a brand new chapter of their life, and they don't have to deal with these people or these dynamics that are unstable, that are psychologically abusive. It is just the most liberating thing. What a breath of fresh air to be free, free at last. Oh, what a feeling, what a beautiful feeling this is, my friends. And so today, share with me, are you the black sheep of the family or the scapegoat? Are you currently going gray rock, or did you go no contact? Have you been through hell and back over this intergenerational trauma? How are you healing? And lastly, have you heard through the family grapevine, or maybe friends of the family, people who do have some insight into what's going on in your family who you're no longer part of? Did these people ever tell you about what happened to your family? Maybe someone died, maybe someone has cancer, maybe they all are fighting amongst themselves and there is intense division among the toxic family unit. So share with me any insight, feedback, or what your own theory or hypothesis is about what happens to the toxic family when the scapegoat leaves. Like my channel, subscribe to my channel, and you could visit me at danaarcuri.com. Thanks and have a beautiful day.